Hey friends, welcome to the Raising Boys and Girls podcast. I'm Sissy Goff.
And I'm David Thomas.
And I'm Melissa Trevathan.
And we're so glad you joined us for this conversation. Let's dive in. Dr. Wendy Mogel is a clinical psychologist and New York Times bestselling author. She served on the scientific advisory board of Parents Magazine and is frequently invited to weigh in on issues of the day by national and international media. In her podcast, Nurture versus Nurture, Dr. Mogel provides guidance to parents around the world. In a starred review, Publishers Weekly described her now classic first book, The Blessing of a Skinned Knee, as impassioned, lyrical, and eminently practical, a real treasure. Her second release, The Blessing of a B-, addresses the challenge of parenting teenagers in a culture of increasing anxiety and rapid change. Critics emphasize its wit, wisdom, compassion, and common sense. Her most recent book, Voice Lessons for Parents: What to Say, How to Say It, and When to Listen, offers guidance for communicating with children across the expanse of childhood and adolescence and explains the most effective ways to talk about your child to teachers, coaches, nannies, and caretakers, grandparents, and spouses. Enjoy our conversation with the wise, widely respected Dr. Wendy Mogel.
One of my favorite conversations to date.
You're going to love it.
Where we would love for you to start is just to talk a little bit about how you found your way to this work. And it feels so broad to say something you've learned in your work with children and adolescents. We're going to talk about a lot of those things, but anything you'd want to throw out in light of that.
Do not treat your children like fascist dictators or handicapped royalty. That's one. And
that's so good. Will you say it again?
Yes. Do not treat your children like a cross between a fascist dictator and handicapped royalty.
Yes.
Treat them as having the potential to be good family citizens. Children love to work and help. And we are so busy all the time that we extinguish that instinct. And I see it. I have twin grandsons who turned 2 the day before yesterday. And it is stunning to watch how much they want to help and how much they love to work. And they will say, working. And they work to clear the table. And one of them is constantly studying what's funny, and he will do something and say, funny? He is building the concept of humor. And mention this because we've gotten so grave and serious and nervous as a culture and as humans that we forget how important it is. And I mentioned this before, the collective effervescence, that we need to find ways to laugh together. Another thing that I talk about a lot now is familect, which is a concept from linguistics. It's the private language of your family, and each of you have it. They are the nicknames you call your children. And when I'm working with a new set of parents and I'll say, what is your private nickname for your child? If they say, I don't have one, I say, I want you to get one fast. But I also say, what are the names you call your dogs? So you have 2 dogs in the studio right now?
Yes.
Is that right?
We do.
You have the puppy. And you have the more mature, beautiful.
Kind of mature. Yes.
Is that a terrier?
She's a Havanese.
She's a Havanese. So what is her actual name?
Patches.
And do you ever call her anything besides Patches?
Yes. I call her Little Love a lot.
Yes.
When she's being good.
Little Love. Little Love. And the puppy is what's
Yes, her name is June, and I call her Junie B. I love the children's books, Junie B. Jones, and I think about Junie B. all the time.
But don't you love the trend of giving dogs more and more human names these days?
Yes.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
June. That's a sort of an out of fashion old lady's name.
Yes.
It's adorable.
It was my grandmother's name, and I adored my grandmother and felt so loved by her, and I thought, I want a dog
But
who live into all that adoration.
look what you did, David. You put two things together. You were honoring your grandmother and bringing her back, and you were also adding the name of a favorite children's book.
Yes.
So that is the legacy memory and the modern memory. And that's the Familect are the private jokes in your family, the nicknames, and mispronunciations. So very often we retain mispronunciations that the children did as they were developing their language skills.
Yes.
The top of your heads, can either of you remember something that you say in your families that come from a mispronunciation? Standard words that you use. I will tell you. Okay. You have
Please.
David, do it.
I have a niece who, when she was little, we were all on a family beach trip, and she had a slight speech hurdle, and she said one day when she got her feelings hurt, I have a very tender heart. And so we sometimes will say that back and forth to each other. I have a tender heart right now.
It's so beautiful. And
Yes.
we have tender hearts every single day.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we either repress it, suppress it, or fall apart.
Mm.
I have a very tender heart. It's my daughter was a preschool teacher, and she said that it grieved her as her 4-year-olds lost their speech impediment over
Yes.
the school year, because her student who called them straw babies learned to call them strawberries.
Yes.
And they missed the straw babies.
Yes.
Can you think of any word in your family that you use from anybody's childhood? And I don't want to put you on the spot, but if it comes to mind.
Mm-hmm. Well, the one I would say is that was part of our, what do you call it? Familect?
Familect.
Yes,
And this is an official term in linguistics. Familect.
Familect. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So could I pull in a TV character?
Absolutely.
So I think probably the three of us know who this character is immediately. A lot of our listeners don't have a clue, but there was a show that was very popular once upon a time called Happy Days.
Yeah.
And the Fonz had a really hard time apologizing. And he would, every time he would stutter and he would say, I was, he could never say I was wrong. And so that was part of our Familect, that when someone was trying to say they had failed, they would say I was as part of our apology. And then it would inject humor into it. And so it would lighten the moment.
It's humor. It's also profound because it's so hard to apologize.
Yes.
So it's lightening the tension of the moment, but really communicating the intention of the person who is struggling to apologize.
Yes. Yes.
It's beautiful.
I know. Can we talk to you for 6 hours? Okay, you have had around 120 somethings at your house lately.
Well, since we got a puppy, all 3 of our kids came home, brought friends, girlfriends, boyfriends, fraternity brothers, you name it. June is quite the attraction.
You are running a bed and breakfast.
I am, and you know who is helping me out? Our place.
We love them.
I legit cook in them every morning, sometimes multiple times a day.
I've gotten rid of all my old pots and pans.
Me too.
Our Place is a mission-driven and female-founded brand that makes beautiful kitchen products that are healthy and sustainable.
Their products are made without PFAS and PTFE, which is basically Teflon. In comparison, most of today's nonstick pans contain PFAS, also known as forever chemicals, which are under increasing global scrutiny for their impact on the environment and our health.
That's why Our Place came out with non-toxic appliances that are changing the game. And did we mention their beautifully designed and stunning colors that feel like art objects and elevate any home, and that make you feel creative in the kitchen?
Find out why Our Place has 75,000 five-star reviews on their award-winning products, and they've been mentioned in the New York Times, Bon Appetit, and more.
Go to FromOurPlace.com and enter our code RBG at checkout to receive 10% off site-wide.
That's FromOurPlace.com, code RBG. Our Place offers a 100-day free trial with shipping and returns. Well, Dr. Mogel, we'd love to talk about every one of your books because we love them all. We'll stop off with each for a moment, and let's start with The Blessing of Skin Knee, which we, again, have recommended more times than we could possibly count. And first of all, we love the title of that book more than we could possibly say, and we love the 9 blessings that address key parenting issues. So would you be willing to talk about 2 in particular that we have so many parents ask about? One is chores and one is mealtime battles.
So 3 books that off the top of my head that have become prescient in more ways than the author considered are Robert Putnam's book, Bowling Alone, about the death of social institutions in the United States, people going to church, people joining Knights of Columbus, people in bowling leagues. And it has made us isolated in our little loving, nervous pods of family. COVID exploded that.
Yes.
And there's a lot of conversation. That's why I mentioned fandoms earlier. No matter how nutty, as long as they're not dangerous. So good to be in public with other people who share your interest in music or dance or politics, as long as, again, it's not dangerous, because we need each other so badly. So, Bowling Alone, Barry Schwartz, professor at Swarthmore, his book, Paradox of Choice. The other day, I was looking at the screen on my television, and it was offering me many, many different platforms, and then something new that was like a horror movie to me. It said cast and crew. And so if you entered a name on the little search bar, it would show you cast and crew for every movie and television show. And then it had podcasts. So I entered my name, found loads of things, but how much choice there is now.
Yes.
Also, how to respond to a text, or should it be an email? Should it be during business hours, or could it be in the middle of the night? When you wake up in the morning, the extension of our bodies, which is this thing, do we default to it, or do we greet our family members in the morning with full attention and the willingness to hear a dream, to move along in the rhythm of the day alongside family members as we enter our journey of the day, and at the end of the day, share our journeys. So then a third book that I think was prescient was Blessing of Skin Knee, because the 25th anniversary edition is coming out next year.
Wow,
Incredible.
that's amazing.
I am so proud and excited. I want kids to keep skinning their knees. I want them to
Yes.
make loads of mistakes. I want them to get muddy. I want them to have broken hearts. I want them to have crushes. There's a lot less sex going on in general. Certainly teenagers, also adults. And part of the reason for that, it's, again, you can just default to pornography and nobody's judging you. And you're not relating in a flesh and blood and sensual and tender. So, David, say it once more.
Then tender heart. Yes, tender heart.
Tender heart. So that's how we want to connect to each other on one hand, and on the other. So the two issues you raised were chores and what's the other one?
Mealtime battles. We get asked a lot
Mealtime
about that.
battles. Okay. So highlight for me the issue about chores as you see it.
I would say we hear a lot from parents that there are so many battles around chores that it will double the time to accomplish the task itself. And they start to think, I should just throw out that battle because we're spending so much time and we have so little time as a family. I've even had parents say, I wanted my kids to walk the dog. I wanted my kids to feed the dog, but there's so much homework. It's just not worth the battle of them doing it and the amount of time it's going to take.
And the kids know that.
Yes.
They are so much smarter than we are.
Yes.
And they have little tricks, like maybe you want them to clear the table. And my just turned 2-year-old grandson, one of them says, my carry plate, because he doesn't know the concept of I yet. So he starts sentences with my carry plate. He wants to carry the plate from the table to the kitchen. And if his parents do it for him, he weeps. He weeps at being deprived of the opportunity to be a family citizen, to contribute and to work. But what happens by the time the kids are preteens is they learn these, and they're, again, so much smarter than we are, cagey, strategic things. And they say things like, I would clear the table, but I actually, and they all say actually and literally from the time they're 4 through those two words.
Yes.
Literally, it's stunning. Kids didn't use those two words. And they say, I actually have a test tomorrow. Those are the 4 magic words. I have a test. And then a parent might say, in one of the STEM disciplines?
Yes.
And the child says, absolutely, it's in math. And then the parent says, oh, please go to your room. Can I bring you a snack on a tray? Can I make you some flashcards? Would you prefer the font to be Arial or Verdana? And then can I come to your room a little while later and undress you and dip you in the bathtub and slide you into your pajamas and sing 7 lullabies? That's instead of the child clearing the table.
Yes.
So to evaluate what gifts we want our children to have in the future, we do not know. The jobs we imagine them having will not exist. Kids don't even need to learn coding anymore because we've got AI to do that. Yes. They need the capacity to be good team players, to relate to people who are considerably younger and older than they are. And David, when you mentioned your grandmother, I love the look on your face, your grandmother, June. he was a person who was special to you. And grandparents and grandchildren have the greatest human relationships there
Yes.
because they have a
Yes.
common enemy. You know who that is?
Yes.
That's
They
great.
have time for each other. And generally, they both know how to play and they both like music. So, how precious that is. We want, when parents come in to talk to me about a boy they're really worried about, and they're worried he's going to become a serial killer. They get very, very dark about it. And I say, okay, what are the teachers in school saying about him? And they say, oh, the teachers in school love him. And they say, because we think maybe he's a sociopath. And what I say to them is, I really like kids to be good in school and bad at home. I really worry about kids who are behave badly in school and behave very well at home. Because unless they are terribly poorly placed in school, which is very rare, they are so good at home because they're afraid of or for their parents. They're afraid of their parents' depression or substance abuse or the condition of the marriage. And they are what both of you know called the parentified child. And in school, they feel safer and they can let out some of their feelings. So when the parents say to me, oh, the teachers love him, I say, looking good. And then I say, how is he with his little cousins or the little neighbor kids or little kids that he runs into in a playground or a park? And they say, oh, he loves little kids. He loves his little cousins. He knows how to speak their language. And I say, that's because these days boys are feeling very much behind the girls. And they can't imagine that they will ever achieve as much as these dynamic and devoted and organized girls do. And with the little cousins, they can kind of feel like a swashbuckling, cool, big guy. So now we have a person whose parents came in thinking he was going to be a serial killer. And we've learned that the teachers love him, the little cousins love him, and that he makes some trouble at home. And then what I say to the parents is, this is a great child. Could you come up with something else?
Awesome.
That's so good.
So great.
Oh, I mean, I love hearing you talk. I'm so excited about this episode. Okay, so your next book that came out chronologically is called The Blessing of a B-, which we love that title as well. And in this book, you're focusing on teenagers and you address a host of concern parents carry in these years. We love when you talk about the surprising value of ordinary work. And will you talk a little bit about that, particularly in this age of expectation and perfectionism and resume building?
So parents are transcript pimps. Good intentioned, loving, devoted, smart parents. The college admissions industrial complex has brainwashed parents. And if I could change the title of that book now, I would call it The Blessing of an A-. I work with parents who are panicked. And it's a combination of two factors. It's grade inflation, because the teachers and the college professors are terrified to give an honest grade. So when I was in high school, I only got 2 different grades. I got A's and D's. I did.
Really?
A's and D's. Because teachers were allowed to give D's then. Now, the range of grades is a little bit A to A-, maybe a B+. And before the teacher even gets to her office, waiting for her is an email from the panicked parent wanting to cross-examine her about, and sometimes we have 2 lawyer parents, And I always say to teachers, they have an occupational hazard. So the therapist parents, like all of us, we go in psychoanalyzing the teacher and her problem. The lawyer parents go in cross-examining. How dare you give a child this grade? And it really deprives kids of very helpful, useful feedback about where they are on track and where they aren't. What I want kids to do so badly, especially college students, but also high school students, go in and talk to the teacher before the assignment is due and say things like, I want to see if I'm on track. Here's my idea about this essay, or here's my plan of study. Does it feel right to you? Because these teachers have had hundreds, some of them thousands, of seventh graders that they've taught, or freshmen. They know much more than the parents know about the cycle of learning and the cycle of growing as a person of knowledge. And so what I did just now in your question is I jumped to my third book, Voice Lessons for Parents, about how to talk to teachers, getting back to the teenagers. So I think most people know this by now. Their prefrontal cortex, not done yet. This is the site of executive function, of foresight, hindsight, impulse control, does not finish developing in girls until their early 20s, and in boys until their mid to late 20s. Yes. They are full of verve, they are full of energy, they're full of ideas, they are full of passion, they're thrilling, and they're dopey. And so what parents need to do is the hard job of figuring out the family business. What is required? Which chores will be required so that privileges kick in? Privileges are not entitlements. And the children are better at arguing than parents will ever be. So parents cave. And then the children are not learning the actual skills we are so eager for them to learn, which is how to pitch in so the ship continues to float. They're the hands. They're not the captains.
I wish I had a quarter for every time a parent told me how much more their kids struggle when they are hungry and tired.
Hangry is a legitimate state.
I suffer myself.
I might have witnessed it.
If you have hangry kiddos or grown-ups, we have a solution.
This podcast is sponsored by Nurture Life. Nurture Life is a meal delivery service based on helping busy parents easily feed their babies and kids from 10 months old to 10 years old. The company provides fresh meals and snacks that are delicious, nutritious, and fully cooked. That means they are ready to serve in just 1 minute.
Nurture Life lets kids enjoy a healthy, nutritionally balanced diet while still eating all of their favorites like mac and cheese, spaghetti and meatballs, and much more, so parents can be sure there's always something on the menu that their little ones will love.
What sets Nurture Life apart from other meal delivery services? Without a doubt, it's how amazing they taste and how healthy they are. It's because their meals are made fresh every week. Seriously, they're never frozen and shipped directly to your door. My nephews love them, and even I was sneaking in bites with every meal. The little chicken parm is amazing.
That's why Nurture Life is the top meal delivery service for babies and kids, and it is even allergy-friendly too.
So how does Nurture Life work? It's simple. Select from over 50 varieties of nutritious, balanced meals on their weekly menu, from finger foods for babies and toddlers to kids' meals for older kids. Then Nurture Life does the cooking for you. and the fresh meals are delivered straight to your door in refrigerated packing.
Nurture Life's mission is to raise the standard for children's food in America, one meal and snack at a time. Along with full meal options, the Nurture Life menu includes on-the-go snacks and superfood smoothies so kids can eat well no matter what they're in the mood to eat.
It's about time that a flexible meal subscription existed for babies and kids. So head to nurturelife.com and use code RBG for 55% off your first order. That's right, 55% off.
Once again, that's nurturelife.com for 55% off, and make sure you use our promo code RBG so they know we sent you. I love within answering that you went ahead and introduced your third book that we wanted to talk about, Voice Lessons for Parents. And so in it, you explain best ways to talk about your child to spouses, exes, grandparents, teachers, coaches, and caretakers. What encouragement, Dr. Mogel, and challenge even would you offer to parents in this area?
I think that chapter may be called The Opinionators. So lots of opinions, including from us today, the three of us, to anyone who is listening to this podcast. And I say to those listeners, throw it right out if it doesn't feel right to you. If we can consider, and the teachers are such a good example, they are very experienced and really intimidated because parents are fierce. And the reason they're so fierce is they believe that one grade of B on a quiz, not even a test, predicts their child's whole entire life. I want lots of B's. You could even get some D's like I did and turn out okay.
Turn out amazing, like you.
We
changed the world.
We want lots of mistakes, and we want to approach grandparents, teachers, your ex-spouse. So in the book, I talk about dropping off your child when the custody switch happens, the same way you would drop off a beloved pet. Wow. Which is to talk about possibly, and could be someone you hate that person now. There is, all right, I'm not going to think of the name of the book now. It's a really wonderful book about how to communicate with your ex. So you hate this person, but you both love the child. Just the way the two of you love Patches and June. And so you drop off the child and you talk about some delightful thing that happened. And maybe if the child has severe gastritis, something medical that needs to be tended to, you can mention that. And when you are with the child on your custody turn, you can say something very positive about your ex-spouse. Like the child sings, and you can say, I know where you got that singing voice from. It's from your mom. To show respect and honor for the child's whole heritage, instead of letting your bitterness and tender heart seep through, and your longing and your loneliness and your resentment and your diminished bank account because of what you have to pay for child support. You are thinking about the best interests of the child, and that is honorable behavior towards the child's whole emotional biosphere, which also includes the other set of grandparents. So I do a lot of grandparenting work. There's something going on in the culture right now. It's about estrangement. And estrangement is growing in American culture really fast. And people find a lot of support online from other people who have cut off a family member. And sometimes it's really enlightened and evolved and smart. If a family member was abusive or rejecting or damaging, and you find a community to support you. We also want very badly to figure out how to include tricky. The continuum is from annoying to tricky to abusive. And we want to include the annoying and the tricky. And that is every single grandparent, every single one that ever lived, including me. That I'm the grandparent. Not so great, because I'm supposed to be such a big expert, and I am as new and dumb and doofy and on a learning curve as any other grandparent. So we want to find ways to choreograph including them, the ex-spouse, the grandparent. So you have it written down there, Sissy. Who else do we have in that paragraph of voice lessons?
Teachers, coaches, caretakers.
Oh, coaches. So I've worked with some coaches. It's hell for them now. It's hell. And at the same time, there are coaches who are really in it for the money, and they will let your child play on a field that's too hot, and they will insist that their travel team do so much travel that you can never go on a family vacation again, ever. And they are doing this to build their business as coaches who send kids to the NFL or to the Olympics. So that's one side of it. And the other side of it is parents who are living through their children and through every play on the court or at the mound, and so coaches, what they've had to do, and teachers have to do this as well, they make rules for parents on the sidelines. And I also talk to parents a lot about after the game. So, and it's really hard for a parent who played that sport because they know a lot. And they say, if you had only, it depends on the sport. And what I want parents to say at the end of a game is, I love watching you play.
Yes.
I love watching you play. And stop right there. And it's really interesting because then the child will bring to the parent what they thought they did well and what they thought they could improve. And this is very similar to picking your child up in the carpool line. So when they get in the car, instead of saying, "Oh, sweetie, honey, love, how was your day? And did those mean girls who used to be your best friends and their moms used to be my best friends, did they exclude you again today and not make a space for you at the table of lunch? And did you eat alone in the library with the librarian who at least has a little bit of compassion for this hideous situation you're in? It's breaking your heart too." And another thing that parents cannot say to their children was, "How did you do on that math test with that math teacher who clearly does not understand your learning style, has not from the beginning of the year and does not now?" Instead, you say to your child, and this is another one I want to look up because I just found it the other day and it's so much fun. Here it is. So, child gets in the car. They are tired. They had to follow all those rules, and they do it really well, really well. And then they come into the car with you, mom or dad, more and more dads. We have more and more stay-at-home dads. We have a third of dads are in the carpool line. But when the child gets sick at school, who does the school call, even though the dad's name is first? They call mom and call her out of a meeting 3 or 4 times till they learn it. Okay, so child gets in the car with parent and look at that child and you say, "Hey, nickname of child, Familec Sweet. So Judy B, nickname of child. I thought of you today when. And
Mm.
then you insert their current passion. And I never call these obsessions. These are passions because kids have so much verve and they love detail. So here's one I ran into the other day because I've got these little grandsons. So I'm starting to think a lot about dinosaurs. And you can say to a child, I thought about you today when I read about a dinosaur, or I heard about a dinosaur that has a neck as long as a school bus. A neck as long as a school bus. The necks were 50 feet long, and they're called sauropods. And then you shut up and let the child tell you about their day. Because, and the example I gave was a little bit long. I like it to be shorter. But what you are communicating to the child is that you hold them in mind when you're not with them, that you hold them in mind and you are enchanted with their enchantment, and that you light up thinking about the things that have meaning to them. Then they'll tell you about their day. They will not if you are digging for intel and cross-examining them.
Enchanted with their enchantment.
Yes.
And captivatable. A captivatable parent.
Yes.
Dr. Mogel, I just try and imagine in my mind all the ways you have done that for all these years in your work. I imagine all the ways you were doing that in the lives of those two remarkable little boys, and just feel so thankful for your voice and your presence in this world and how life-giving this conversation has been.
And you are every bit as kind and delightful and engaging and thoughtful and wise as we would have imagined.
Yes.
It's so, you know, that saying about it's hard to meet your heroes. It has been a joy for us to get to meet you.
That is the
And
that
it
is
is
the truth.
an honor to contribute to this particular podcast because I believe you are in Tennessee. Is that true?
Yes.
I believe you are a ministry.
Yes.
Yes.
And this is so important that we communicate across geography. We communicate across faith traditions. My grandsons now say, so we have Shabbat dinner with them every Friday night. And they say, and they're barely talking. They say, good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom. And they know we light the candles. They know we say a blessing over the challah. And then they say, thank you, God, for our food. And whatever their beliefs will continue to be as they evolve, as they are more discerning about intellectual and theological ideas, to create for them rituals. And the concept of being grateful for food is so fundamental. So we go at Shabbat dinner, we go around the table and everybody says what they're grateful for in the past week. And we did this with our children from the time they were very small because it teaches values. And we always had guests at our Shabbat table. So at my daughter's Shabbat table, there are guests. And we started to ask the boys what they are grateful for from the past week. And they don't understand any of those words, but they hear the rhythm of everybody else doing it. So they have last week they did it for the first time. One of them, the one who started, thought for a really long time. And he said, food, because he knows the prayer to say thank you for our food. So those two things are connected for him already, gratitude and something so basic and fundamental as food. And then his brother said exactly the same thing. So that was good. He didn't have to figure it out on his own. And I look forward each week to seeing what they are going to say they're grateful for. And I'm grateful for the two of you, for this opportunity. It's been so much.
Wow.
We are so grateful.
We are so grateful for you. Please keep writing. And will you say where folks can find your work and follow along?
Oh, so I do no social media, 0. Zero.
Good for you.
Because for me, it's a rabbit hole of, I would have no other life. So the books you can get anywhere. The Blessing of Skinny, The Blessing of a B-, Voice Lessons for Parents, and the podcast on every podcast platform, Nurture versus Nurture with Dr. Wendy Mogel.
Thank you.
Thank you. This has been one of my favorite conversations we have ever had on the podcast.
Wait for this to release. You are a delight.
I know. And it's as much about who you are as all that you know.
Yes.
So thank 100%.
You. 100%. Thank you for saying yes to this invitation.
Thank you for having me. And just keep thinking about your family and getting tickled by it, because it's broad and deep and it's private. It's not public. And those are your family jewels.
Yes. Thank you.
Bless you. Thank you so much.
Bless you both.
Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you. You too. We have Shabbat.
David, what a team we have that we get to call friends who help make this podcast possible.
Amanda Young, our operations manager.
Chris Starrett, our engineer and producer.
Our management team at KCH.
And we are thrilled to be a part of the That Sounds Fun network.
Our music was created by the insanely talented Dave Haywood of Lady A.
And if this podcast felt helpful to you, please consider subscribing, liking, sharing, all the things.
We are grateful for you and cheering you on always.